wants to straighten up immediately. Rush of blood ball spills away towards McLaughlin, and the young man kicks his first goal in the big time. Will McLaughlin remember the name?
Kelly felt the pressure coming, and now here's a chance for Archie to go back-to-back and get the Brisbane Lions back in it.
Go-ahead goal. McCluggage feeds it out by hand. Quick snap, heads goalward, it's good. Dunkley with the go-ahead major. He heads in his general direction, big leap, Morris. Came over the back, third in the queue.
It is the Brisbane Lions Fancast back for another week after a hot and a humid day at the Gabba, where we looked very well below our best for a lot of that match today, Patrick. But we walk away with another win, 2 from 2. Neither performance exactly awe-inspiring at this stage, but we had our first home game of the year, the flag unfurling. We had a debutante. Well, actually, we had 2 club debutantes, 1 AFL debutant. So everything was there except 4 quarters of decent footy. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, you may be able to see my face is looking a little red at the moment because it was disgusting at the Gabba today. 30 plus degrees, 90% humidity plus. It was a task. I do not envy the players out on the field today and anyone that had to wear, like proper work attire like suits and stuff. My God, it would have been greasy down in there today.
Yeah, well, pre-game, Lynchy did say he was glad he was wearing a jacket because it would have shown him pitting really badly. So,
oh yeah,
that's I don't know how Simon Black managed to remain relatively cool in the unveiling, but good for them, I guess. Good for everybody.
It was nice, a nice little start to the game. Have some former club greats out there. It's a shame Brownie wasn't able to be there, but Simon Black and Acker and Chris Johnson, Lethal Lee.
Sorry, it was good to see Ackermanis and Lee Matthews have a bit of a. They were able to stand next to one another, particularly after Ackermanis on Schofield's podcast the other week. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw some snippets and there's some pretty funny stuff. Probably could be a good listen at some point, I gotta say.
Yeah, Backchat's not bad actually. I every now and then I'll tune into that. It's good value. All right, interesting game today. Interesting game. A lot of skill errors, especially that first half. That was pooey. That was yuck.
Well, I've got to admit, in the first quarter, it's sort of to set the scene. So, teams, we had a debutant.
We did. McLaughlin comes in, as did Bruce and Sam Day, who made his club debut out. Obviously, Kai Starcevic. And who was the third out on that one?
Darcy Fort.
Darcy Fort made way as well, for Sam.
And Charlie Cameron didn't get up with the calf. So,
no.
Probably not warning signs, but not great either. And nice for someone who was, picked up in the rookie draft middle of last year when we were sort of a bit low in numbers. And he's, by all accounts, has been extremely good in the VFL and, good value. I had a bit of inside, so I knew he was playing earlier because I had a friend who's friends with his parents and was like, yeah, there's a new guy playing this week. And I was like, surely not. He's like, no, they flew the family up for some sort of jumper presentation. I was like, cool, what's his name? And he's like, Jack something. I'm like, what? It's like, no, Will McLaughlin. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough, cool. So good intel from people that don't know anything about football means that sometimes they will get the name wrong. So he'll forever be Jack what's his name to me. But
he looks good. He did a few nice things today, presented well. Obviously kicked a couple of goals in his first game. Perfectly fine.
I think he just maximum output from minimal disposals.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
It's quite good. But yeah, aside from that, I suppose it's probably more of a settled, in inverted commas, a list of what we can expect structurally. But that did not stop West Coast getting out to a hot start.
No, it would appear we didn't take them seriously.
Yeah, that is a bit of the rhetoric, and I think so. First things first. Now, that I generally am fine with Kelly Underwood, But when she said when the Lions were running out, they are coming off the back of beating the Suns in the grand final, I immediately got my SEN out, and
Sure.
that was curtains. So I didn't get a lot of the Fox footy stuff or any of it, so I missed Lockie's interview. But apparently at halftime he said they did underestimate them. But what was it, a 5-goal lead that West Coast took into the sort of first quarter?
Yeah. It got out to 5 goals before I think we penned one back at the sort of dying stages of the first quarter, because it looked like we were going to go that whole first quarter without scoring a goal, which was pretty worrying. And then they just sort of kept it at sort of 3 goals, and like we'd have to work so hard to get a goal on the board, and then they seemed to do it relatively easily. And they just couldn't miss. They just could not miss for like the first 2.5, 3 quarters, and then towards the back end of the game, everything was going wrong for them. Like that leg break bounce from Liam Ryan that went into the post, and then one that was sort of touched, maybe not touched on the line, and then another one hit the post, and
it was touched on the line.
Yeah, I thought West Coast were good today, and they brought a bit of like they were like mean, they were nasty, they had a bit of what about them today. They were getting stuck into us. They wanted to bully us physically. And they did a good job at that. Yeah,
I mean, there were certain... I'm always a big fan of the old rough and tumble, but I think sometimes it could be done in a faux way, which I'm sure we might talk about a bit later on.
Definitely.
But yeah, it definitely was a case of they just weren't missing. They were getting pretty, like... Structurally, they were kind of flooding the corridor, but they were also just sort of peeling off the back shoulder, and we weren't able to kind of take marks to progress the ball up. I think our half forwards didn't really respect their backmen very much, at least in the first sort of stretch of time.
Jimby and Marriage were really good for them.
Man, Marriage is pale. He would have had a rough day.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was a lot of time afforded into him. It's hard to see, you might be able to have told better, but Hipwood obviously quiet in the first quarter. Was he doing a job on McGovern and not well, or was he just not doing much of anything?
Yeah, it appeared to be not much of anything, really.
Okay.
He sort of
he turned it around in the second half, because I thought he was pretty good in the second half.
Yeah, he definitely had some moments. Yeah.
He also got one hell of a potential corky.
Yeah.
So
he was down for a while, down on his haunches for a while.
Yeah. But I think, it's sort of the first quarter is a hard one to kind of quantify. We just hung in there, which is sort of what we do. And I think there's a few things in the Discord chat where people have just said, if you hadn't won a premiership, you'd be absolutely livid about the performance. But now you're sort of just like, oh, well, we won, so let's move on. Like, we've got 2 wins. And cool.
It was a little bit like that. Like, the whole game I was sitting there, like, really unimpressed with how we were moving the football. Basic skill errors. The thing that annoyed me probably the most today was, like, dishing off hands to someone that was just not in a position to receive hands, or, like, would stifle their run, and they'd have to, like, stop momentum to get the handball, and then suddenly they're under pressure. West Coast pressure was really good. Our defensive pressure was yuck for the first half. Like, they just had numbers out everywhere. And we just couldn't get some fluid ball movement. Like, Darcy Wilmot, his decision-making was so strange today. It's like he second-guessed everything, and it was very uncharacteristic of him. He came good towards the back end of the game, but no matter how bad we were playing in that first half, I did think to myself, we will find a way to win this. Like, it will happen.
Yeah, you can click into gear at least somewhat. And I think I mentioned, like, think back to kind of 2017, 2018, in those first couple of years where we would absolutely throw everything and, the kitchen sink at an opponent. They were, high caliber opponent, and we'd hang in the game, and then we'd lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to happen all the time. Where we'd be like, oh, cool, we were like really competitive, and then we lose by 20 points and stuff like that. I think that's just very much the case with West Coast. So I can kind of, as I said, I can empathize with that a little bit, that they should be pretty happy with the performance.
Oh, definitely.
And and like, we shouldn't necessarily scrutinize our performance too much, because I think when you're a premiership team and a contending team, sometimes you just got to win the game. It's pretty clear that we're still a little bit physically underdone. There's people, you can tell with people kind of coming in and out of the game, like quite a lot. Still popping up for their bit here and there, but we look far from a well-oiled machine, I think.
Yeah.
And it required a big shuffle, and not a shuffle, but a big concerted effort in the second half, which we got. But yeah, I mean, funnily enough, it was a 4-goal deficit at quarter time, 4-goal deficit at half time. They were sort of just keeping us at arm's length, and it was not a good watch the first half.
And then, I know, and it was weird. You look at the stats afterwards, and we basically won everything that needed to be won, and our kicking efficiency was pretty good. And then, I don't know, and people at the Gabba will probably attest to this today, aside from the fact that it was just disgusting weather-wise. But, like, the umpiring seemed so strange, like some crucial calls going West Coast way, and then to see that we won the free kick count by 12 was genuinely surprising. And I'm not saying the umpires tried to screw us out of anything or blaming them for anything like that. But yeah, the 450 metre penalties definitely helped us in the end.
Yeah, they did. I mean, their one helped them quite a bit too. And there was a weird, I think the 15-metre rule thing, it's kind of not really passing the eye test for fans. It's creating more confusion out of a thing that was already a bit like, everyone knows it's kind of bullshit, but you just go with it.
Yeah.
I think they were creeping up on the mark a lot. Like a lot. Every time they were putting contact on the player, they were and like they got picked up on it once in the third quarter, which was a 50-metre penalty. Might have been the Zorko one. And it was like, yeah, they've all been there.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't quite as egregious because there was West Coast fans would live at about the free kick count. And, watching the game on Friday night, the Bulldogs and Collingwood, that was like egregious. How many free kicks were missed, even in like the last 5 minutes, that just kind of like caused things. I don't think that free kick counts necessarily should be equal, because if you're the team chasing, or if you're a young team, or if you're an ill-disciplined team, or if you're overly, what does Brownie say, reckless in the contest, you tend to lean towards giving away more free kicks. So they're not the sort of thing that would be equal. There was just some weird inconsistencies. So, I don't know. I've kind of switched my brain off a little bit to it. Like, the holding the ball rule doesn't really make any sense anymore. The 15-metre kick thing doesn't really work. I got no letter from the AFL about my chopping of the arms and whether a marking contest is... I mean, I got to say, probably the weirdest free kick of the day for me was when Levi Ashcroft bodied someone out in a marking contest and took the mark and got done for blocking. And it was a one-on-one marking contest.
Yeah.
It's like, hold on, he's just put his body in the way and taken a mark. It didn't make any sense. And they didn't show a replay of it, so I can't go back and look. Maybe he poked the guy in the eye. I don't know. But it just seemed like, hold on, that makes literally no sense when people block all the time and he just used his body well. So the umpiring is a mess at the moment. Andrew Dillon can say all he wants about it being great, but it's not. Look at the bounces in the game. They were awful.
The strangest moment was obviously when Will Ashcroft appeared to get a high tackle and everyone just stopped. And it was either had to be a high tackle or holding the ball. Like, it had to be one of those two. And the umpire just like, play on. And everyone stopped. Everyone in the stadium stopped, like, okay, well, they've stopped, so something's going to happen here. And then it was just sort of like, no, go. It was so strange.
Yeah, that was a weird one. But he definitely got grabbed around the neck. People say he ducked, but he accelerated out of it. And, in doing that, you kind of lower your body. I know I wouldn't say that about the Wizard.
He is pretty good at drawing a high free kick, Will.
The Wizard or Will? Will is
both
too, but Will's comes from his hardness at the contest and his willingness to kind of go. I'd say he attacks the contest in the right way, where he doesn't dangle his head. He goes in side face.
He does. And he does lift the arm a little bit, try and drag the tackle.
Yeah, not as much as Dacos or the Wizard.
No.
I don't see him playing for free kicks. He gets them incidentally. So,
yeah. I
mean, that's at least my take on it. It might be biased, but I did say a couple of years ago, I said if a player on our team was to try and milk free kicks, in this kind of iteration, we all know that we loved Reece Matheson getting about 6 of them in that game against Melbourne. That's a different kettle of fish because we didn't have a lot to cheer about back then. So, we're cheering all of those. Whereas now, with tangible footballers, they don't need to lower themselves to that kind of nonsense. So, the second half, man. So, was there anything that stood out to you?
Just a general lift from all of our leaders. Harris Andrews, especially, his second half was. I thought Jack Payne was actually pretty good in the first half, and Harris Andrews' second half was elite as far as I'm concerned. Lester, Dunks, Klug, Neil, like all our leaders really stood up and wanted to get us over the line there. Archie obviously hitting the scoreboard. Hipwood stepped up. Everyone just collectively stood up that little bit more, but the leaders especially, I thought, really set the tone.
And we touched on it before. So Will McLaughlin kicked his first goal, I think, in the second quarter.
Yep.
It's made it a little bit difficult from Sam Day. So, but that way he didn't have a big build up and have to take a set shot, and went around the corner and it worked. Did he kick his? He kicked his second in the third quarter. It was a really good set shot.
Third or fourth,
just crept in. Yeah. I think he kicked him. It might have. I don't know. Who cares? He kicked another goal and it was good.
Yes.
Kalachi, habit of sliming out the back. There was a big sense of deja vu of the grand final.
Yeah.
Him running into the left of screen was really good.
Yep.
And Ashcroft to put him in space for one of the other ones was really good. Anyone any idea with the taping on his knee? Because quite heavily strapped.
Yeah.
And it kind of has that band up the middle, which kind of
he was a bit at the back end of that Sydney game last week. He was hobbling around a little bit, so maybe it's maybe he's carrying a little bit of soreness from that, and maybe not necessarily any structural damage, just a little bit of tenderness that he's being precautionary with. Because I know there was a little bit of like, oh, how's Archie going to pull up after that game? But no, he was fine.
So a big question with, Logan Morris. So he's had a couple of goals in the last couple of weeks. That he's essentially, he took one off Zorko for that banana, and this week he burned about 5 players.
He burned so many teammates. I could not believe it when he took that mark on the boundary line when we're 30 points down, and he's burnt Sam Day. I think Bailey and Rayner were in the middle, and at least another couple. And you're like, well, you've got to kick it now. And sure enough,
he did.
He did. He slotted the drop punt from the boundary line. But jeez,
he did. But is it the sort of thing that he needs to have a bit of a come on, dude? Like you've done an inside outer from there. You've slotted one Darcy Fogarty style from the boundary, the drop punt. Can you just open your eyes?
I dare say when they watch the tape back tomorrow or Tuesday or whenever it is, there will be a discussion of, hey, come on.
It hasn't cost us yet, but it very well could at some point in time.
He had a good game though, Loggy. He had a great game.
He was great in the last quarter. His contested mark, albeit also braining Kalachi at the same time, was... it was Jonathan Brown-esque, that, full-chested, over the top. I loved it. But aside from that, I think when we kind of reached parity in the third quarter, I sort of thought we were going to win. I think everybody thought we were going to win. And we did.
All right, can I get up on my high horse now?
Maybe.
Remember Remember a couple of weeks ago where I said when Brandon Starcevich was looking to miss the first game, I said on this very podcast, well, how's this for a left field idea? Someone that we know wins his one-on-ones, is a very disciplined footballer. What about Jasper Fletcher playing down back? And who played exclusively down back today and played quite well, might I add? Jazzy Fletcher.
He was pretty good. Yeah, he was.
So I'm going to claim that.
Yeah, look, I said it in, said it in the Discord. A broken clock is right twice a day. So I'll say that one to you. It was hard. Admittedly, it was quite hard on the television to get a sense of the structure and who was actually sort of playing down back, because there was a lot of bringing the half forwards and the half backs into the contest. So it was really hard to kind of actually gauge who was where. A lot of the time, Fletcher looked like he was sort of sitting behind the contest as he would as a winger almost anyway.
Yeah.
So it might have been a case of his role whilst being predominantly down back. He was starting and doing similar things, but in a more keeping an eye on him sort of a way. So, but well done, Senor Brooks.
I thought Noz was really good today, across the day as well, actually. He had some really good moments. I thought, he's just been a really solid contributor since he's come into the team last year.
He's virtually undroppable.
Yeah.
At this point in time. He's kind of in that echelon of just play, the glue players, the ones I've talked about in the time, but, the sort of ones where, there's a few from GWS that have all left all at once. Look at Peatling, the other guy, and the other one coming, and who's that other Burke? I don't know.
Yeah, one of them. They're all the same.
Yeah. They're kind of like weird role players that you kind of would quite like to have on your team a lot of the time. I'm not saying that we want them on our team.
Yeah.
We've got ours, and we like ours. Ours are the Kalachi, Fletcher,
Bez.
Noah Ainsworth, Jared Berry. Those types that they do the job, and you've got to have some players that are not going to get a billion touches every week. It's just not the way that football works. We've done that to death, where if everybody played to their full potential every week, we'd win every game by 200 points, and that's just not super possible. So Harris definitely had a really good last quarter. I would say West Coast, I don't know whether them taking Bailey Williams off.
Yeah,
I think that was a mistake.
At the ground, was that tactical? Because we don't know. It's just he's off now, and then their other ruckman, he was hobbling, and then he was really hobbling later on. So then Jimby was doing ruck work. So was Bailey Williams?
It didn't look like an injury. It looked
okay.
tactical. And Petrocelli came on and kicked a goal
Straight away,
But Bailey Williams kind of has that Riley O'Brien type thing where he kind of negates Big O quite well.
Yep.
So I don't think that was a good choice for them.
No.
Maybe it was an injury. It didn't seem like it though. So.
And maybe he was just cooked because it was 1,000 degrees and.
Yeah, but I mean, the other fellow was his second game or whatever.
Yeah.
Like Archie, whatever the hell.
Archie Reid, yeah.
And he, he looks like he's got a lot of potential, but have fun. But if you can't run, you can't ruck.
Yeah.
So, not going to work.
What did you make of Sam Day today?
Not the best day to decide.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to reserve.
I think
I'll reserve judgment, but not impressed. I'm not sitting here going, yeah, that's our guy.
No. I still stand by the fact that he is pretty much the same as Josh Walker. He very much gives Josh Walker. SEN made kind of fun of the fact that he did his best Joe Danaher by missing a quite easy set shot. I'm sure everybody had that thought.
Yep.
But he was there. He's pretty slow. His ruck work is fine, I guess. But I'm kind of just hoping that Henry Smith becomes a good player soon.
Yeah, and he played all right in the twos. Cam Rayner was nowhere today, basically.
He had a good tackle.
Yep.
And that was about that.
He laid 8 tackles, but as far as impact with the ball, slim to nil.
It's okay. It's early days in the season, and it's just I wouldn't accuse really any players of not being fit, but he doesn't look quite as Cam Rayner-ish as we know Cam Rayner can be. And maybe that's just a case of over the course of a season, they kind of,
Well, like we said, he was our best on in the first quarter last week, and then sort of drifted out of the game. He didn't really have much to speak about today, unfortunately. So hopefully he'll be bouncing back next week against the Cats, who look like they'll be without Tom Stewart, which is obviously a good get for us, and who knows about Bailey Smith and all that sort of stuff. All right, do you want to jump into some votes? Thanks to Hop On Brewery Tours. Book yourself a half for a full day tour across the Gold Coast or Brisbane at hoponbrewerytours.com.au. Would you like to tee off today?
Yeah, I might as well. This is going to be haphazard as all hell. I'm going to go 1 vote to Calamachi. I'm going to go 2 votes to Harris Andrews and 3 votes to Lockie Neal.
Fair enough. I'll also go Neil Andrews for 3 and 2. I've got Berry as my 1 today. I thought he was consistent across the whole day.
He cops a lot of physical heat.
He does.
Jared Berry. He's a nice guy, and he just cops it all the time.
And he had to stand under so many balls today. And when West Coast was looking to try and impose themselves physically at every opportunity, like it was
always him or Zorko.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Zorko copped it a bit today.
So shall we talk about the Harley Reid?
Yeah, okay. Well, we have got a question here as well from Ross. Is Reid really...
Is that like a fast track straight in there from the MC Ross?
I'm not sure. Yeah, well, this has just come through. We've got 2 unsolicited questions today. I didn't really have time to do it today, so we will address this one from Ross here. Is Reid really such a great get? 15 disposals, 0 goals, and 6 winding actions. It seems like he needed that guy's tissues. Look, he's not... The last 2 weeks have not been good for Harley Reid, have they? You know, flopping like that flop last week was disgusting. He did 2 of them today. Yeah,
you know, he did 2 that were not free kicks. One was a brush across the hips, and he went down like a sack of shit. I think, and this is casting certain assuasions. I said I wouldn't talk about a footballer's weight, fitness level, body type, whatever. I'm not going to talk about our blokes. Talk about Harley Reid. He looks like his diet's shit. He looks doughy. He's got so much talent, and he's got the burst.
Yeah. I mean, and we saw bursts of it today. Like, how many tackles did he break when he got that inside 50? But I don't know. And maybe it's a case of the intense scrutiny he's under and pressure and all this sort of stuff is adding to it. But he just looks angry, and he'd much rather mouth off and act like a dickhead than let his footy do the talking at the moment.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he wants to be there. I don't think he'll be at West Coast next year.
No, and I think everyone's talking about that, and maybe it's adding to it as well. And he's just not knowing how to really process all this pressure and emotion, and he's just coming out like as this angsty kid. I dare say
he does look a bit like early '90s Silverchair.
A little bit,
you know, like to get him a drum set.
I dare say Kane Corns will have his say either tonight or tomorrow at some point. With something to do with Harley Reid, because he's not winning many fans so far. I would have thought in 2025.
No, definitely not. Like, it was very exciting at times. Definitely, I think I sort of took note. Maybe Gather Round. I think he might have played pretty well against Sydney.
Yeah.
And then that game against Melbourne, he was fantastic, and he just was fun to watch. It looked like he was enjoying his football. He doesn't look like he's enjoying his football. And maybe that's because McWalter's more of a system kind of coach rather than like a one-on-one, you go and do your thing. Because it doesn't look like he has a great deal of allowance to express himself in the way that he probably would. But maybe learning good habits on how to be a footballer and being a professional would be the goer here. I did hear someone during the week, I don't know who it was, probably some you'll probably know, like talking about getting... like a role model figure in for him if West Coast were going to retain him for next year.
Yeah.
Like, who would there be, It looks like he has no respect for anybody. The way that he's mouthing off at, like, Brownlow medalists and premiership players and 300 gamers, and you're just like, okay, this guy clearly doesn't care. And it's not even, like, a good kind of, like, he's got a bit of attitude and he's got a bit of, like, go to him. It's like, nah, he just has no respect. He thinks he's above it all.
And it's either a case of, like, he's just been built up that much through his junior footy and by the AFL media and the West Australian footy media, and he genuinely believes that he is, his shit don't stink, or it's all coming in around him, and he's, like I said, doesn't know how to necessarily process all that pressure, and he's just got this me against the world attitude, and he's just lashing out. So I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the first thing about the kid, but yeah, he's certainly not making many fans. That's all I'll say.
No, and that's fine. So we've got two Ashcrofts.
Mm-hmm.
Levi got done taking a mark and then went to take a kick and didn't, and then got picked.
Yep.
He didn't actually take a step off the line. I think that wasn't holding the ball. He will get suspended at some point in time because he is of the two. You can see it happening. He's the sneaky sniper. I'm calling it early.
He's got a he's probably just trying to do a little bit too much, trying to be the hero too many times at the moment, Levi. And maybe he's got a bit of the Harley Reid's about him as well, where he's been built up and he wants to prove himself and thinks he is. Like, he's come from junior footy where he's, the big fish in the small pond, and now he's trying to establish himself in the AFL system. But, yeah, probably not as a great performance today from Levi as last week. Certainly had his moments. But, yeah, just trying to do too much too often, I think.
He was relatively serviceable. I didn't mind it. I like him. He's just the evil brother.
Yeah.
He's got the evil to him, and I like that. Very much like that. Was there anyone else that didn't kind of warrant a mention? I thought Dunkley bailed us out in the first half pretty well. His overhead marking is
I know, it's crazy.
Unmatched for a midfielder.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Hipwood grew into the game a lot more. I don't know what the hell he was doing, having a tea party with Harley Reid in that first quarter. But he ended with 15 touches, 2 goals. He's made a habit of that right foot snap, hasn't he?
This one was not as pretty as last week's. got what, 2.5 metres off the ground?
It being just above the hand, the sense of hope. I'm all here for it. Brucey looked lean.
Yeah.
But I thought Irish would probably play ahead of McKenna. Ahead of Revs.
Yep.
Glad Rev got a good portion of game, but I just think although McKenna sort of had minimal touches, I think he probably settled into the team a little bit structurally, a bit more. It allowed Fletcher probably to get forward and kick that goal at the end.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that team though.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much about Bruce at the moment because I don't know. It's not enough to go on to judge his performance. He certainly had some good moments. His kicking is still, really, really good. Probably just didn't get enough of the ball today, and fitting into the system, I suppose, is probably his downfall. But I thought he was fine, and he'll get another opportunity this year. I would imagine he'd probably come out of the team depending on who's fit and available for next week. Yeah.
Possibly. I think if Charlie Cameron is up, then I think McLaughlin will come out.
Yep.
And the Fort and the Day one is an interesting kind of weighing up because I think they're pretty sold on going with Day.
Yep.
But, I mean, there's nothing really Day seemed to offer today, and I know we said we weren't going to kind of judge it on what it was. I mean, Fort looked better to me.
Yeah, I think
the week before.
I think the thing is we know what we're going to get with Darcy Fort, and we can bring him in. I think I'm probably prepared to reserve judgment on Sam Day after a 4 or 5 week period.
Yep.
And then really go, okay, now we need to bring Darcy Fort back in, or Darcy Gardner came straight back into the twos and kicked 3 goals. So maybe we go back to that experiment of Darcy Gardner as our third forward.
Well, would he be I guess Logan Morris took. Yeah, well, that'll the pearl clutches will be there in droves for that one.
I mean, the obvious thing there is who's going to be playing backup ruck. So maybe that's not the call.
Darcy Gardner's got a fused shoulder, so maybe the titanium joints will punch the ball more meters than we would ever have seen before. I don't know.
I'm sure he'll find another limb or joint to dislocate or break or something.
Yeah, don't. Anything else from the game?
No, not so much today. I think that just about wraps it up. It was a gritty win. I'm don't really want to spend a whole lot more time thinking about it because I spent a lot of time in the sun, sweating and burning and just going, can my team at least play good footy so I've got something nice about this day? And eventually we got there, so fine. 2 wins, we're 5th on the ladder, undefeated at this stage, big match against Geelong, and who knows what Geelong is going to rock up because last week they looked like the best team in the competition by a mile, and then yesterday against the Saints, very far from that. So, and we haven't been anywhere near our best at this stage.
No, the Saints they picked them apart a little bit, didn't they? I know that they had a few injury issues. Cameron didn't look quite right. Obviously, Bailey Smith not there, and Tom Stewart with the knee. But yeah, it was a good game.
It was.
It was a good game. Yeah,
There was a couple of good games this weekend.
Geelong, I got to say, with that game, Geelong threw that game so hard. Like, they should have won about 10 times and just couldn't put the ball in the sticks. They were cocking everything up, and it was really funny because that's been us.
Yeah,
and it's been us, and we've grieved through it, so now we can laugh.
Well, they're going to want to bounce back next week, that's for sure. And who knows what sort of team we're going to put out there. I would imagine Stas is probably still not good to go. He could be. We might get the injury update on Tuesday, and he might have ticked all the boxes, and they'll go, yep, get back out there. But I dare say he'll still be facing at least another week or two, at least, on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think they'll err on the side of caution, and I think we thought that with the TBC rather than it just being this traditional 2 weeks concussion.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have Charlie Cameron back. Lohman ended up being what I said. So
yeah, that's crazy.
You Jasper Fletcher.
I know.
I got that one. Also, did you tip North Melbourne this week?
No, I didn't. I tipped Melbourne.
Sucked in.
Yeah.
Although, did you tip Freo or Sydney?
I did tip Freo in the end.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I think I figured out if I'm going to put this tipping into the art, I think round one I went over ambitious with 4 50-50 tips, and I think you got licensed to do 2.
Okay.
So I did my 2 50-50s, and one won and one didn't. So yeah,
that's a pretty good return.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think Kai will still be out for a while. I think Charlie will come in for Will, and then that might be it. Do you reckon that's going to be the only change you'd see? Charlie in for Will?
I would say so. Yeah.
It would be nice to have Brandon Stas. I will be interested to see if they do anything differently with that back line, just because of Geelong's high half forwards that are very, very dangerous. Stengel, Close, Ollie Henry's a nightmare matchup, and then Dangerfield's moving forward.
Strangely, I could actually see them putting Darcy Garner back in and having him swing.
Yeah, okay.
One way or the other. I could see him coming in for Rev and having him deal with because they got Shannon Neal, Ollie Henry.
He's looking good, by the way, Shannon Neal. Like, he's come a long way in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, he still looks like he has about one brain cell. But I reckon, their forwards between him, Ollie Henry, and then Danger being up there, it kind of, Ollie Henry gives Harris a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Cameron, forgot about him.
Well,
so it's kind of like we're almost lacking a big body, and I think Darcy Gardner could come back and do that.
Strangely enough, I'm not. When it comes to Geelong, Jeremy Cameron, as one of the best players in the league, doesn't stress me out as much, because I know Froggy has done the job, a few times on him and held him pretty quiet. And as you said, he didn't look quite right yesterday. He had a bit of an ankle issue or something.
Calf, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this could very well come back to bite me right on the ass, but he doesn't worry me as much as others.
Yeah, good chat.
I'm definitely more worried about, say, Brad Close or Grind Myers than Jeremy Cameron. And definitely more worried about Ollie Henry, especially after that prelim last year. And I dare say that they might put a little bit more time into him.
Yeah, they might do, but I mean, yeah, it just remains to be seen, I suppose. But no Tom Stewart, that's pretty big. I actually think, in the last quarter, Jack Henry probably played the best football I've ever seen him play. He took so many intercept marks, and I was like, wow.
He's been pretty handy.
This is what this guy does. Yeah. He normally just looks like he's got the Blackadder season 1 haircut, and he's just running around like some sort of feudal lord. And he's not really ever done anything except throw his arms out and get weird injuries. So I don't know, but he played really well in that last quarter.
Yep.
But they still didn't win.
And Blitzar's down back as well is obviously very handy.
It'll be because they've kind of got 2 bona fide rucks between him and Sam De Koning's doing all right. Obviously not quite at the Tom De Koning level, but he has won a game of football. So what does that tell you?
Jeez. An excuse to sink the boot into Carlton at this stage.
Oh, man, the drive-bys are all the time. All the time.
Fair enough. All right, we will get to the one question that we did get through via email, believe it or not, thanks to Crisp Communications. If you've got a small
I'm
business...
half expecting you to get one. Sorry, I'll let you do the ad, the the sponsor.
crispcoms.co if you need any marketing for your business, whether it's email marketing, if you've got a podcast of your own, social media, any of that sort of stuff, chat to Abby and the team at crispcoms.co. We got an email from Ben. He said, quick fire thoughts after West Coast. Hi, boys. Love your work. A few quick thoughts after the West Coast game. I don't think there is anyone else in the world I could despise more than Jack Ginnivan. Take a bow, Harley Reid. Number 2, Fletch is completely underrated. Feel like he's starting to emerge from Will Ashcroft's shadow. And his last point here, mark my words, Logan Morris will win a Coleman, possibly an illegitimate child of Brownie.
Oh, same page, me and Ben.
Yeah. It turns out there was no questions in there at all. Just as you said, a couple of quick fire thoughts. Yeah, especially with the.
Well, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Those 3 things are thoughts that I've basically had, if not in this podcast. The Fletcher stuff, you can go back to middle of last year, further back than that. I don't give a shit. I said Fletcher was going to be like an absolute star, and that everyone calling him to be like, "Oh, put him as a sub. He's been a bit quiet." I'm like, no. Let this child learn his craft and become like an absolute dominator at whatever he does.
Yep. Defender now.
He'll end up being like a full forward or something, Ruckman. He'll be the better Silvani.
But yeah, good game from Logan today, and especially with the shaved head. He's got a bit of brownie about him, hey? And just the build, I guess.
It's the full-chestedness that I like.
Yeah.
And you can also just imagine that he would like... as he's like running around the field, like he just he gives off that kind of feeling.
Well, yeah, he's too busy trying to digest a Grand Angus meal.
Yeah, well, he also had a bit of a swollen mush from last week, so good, like it.
Yeah, as long as he's not burning any more teammates, I wasn't. Although he kicked the goal, I certainly wasn't happy with that.
No, but if you're gonna burn your teammates and you sink it, that's better than burning your teammates and missing it.
Very much so. All right. Tipping. How did you go?
Sound. Bit annoyed that Sydney got over the line at the end there. I did not tip St Kilda. And I did not tip Sydney. And they were the 2 I did not get.
There's a couple of people that got 7s this week in our competition. I got 5.
I'm assuming the 7s were the ones that tipped Sydney and somehow took my advice in tipping North Melbourne. How'd you go with the margin?
How did I go with the margin? I think I got it basically bang on. If I look back, I said Hawthorn by 26.
Yeah, I had Hawthorn by 22, so beat you there. Sucked in.
So yeah,
it was sitting at 22 points for a long time as well, and then they got 2 points.
Yeah, I missed out on Freo, I missed out on Melbourne, I missed out on St Kilda for this week. Yeah,
well, should have gone North Melbourne. Joined the hype train. I said I was a week early, and I was right last week.
You did.
Okay, so we got next round.
All right, let's look at round 3, and there is another 8 games. So there's another 2 teams having a bye next week. That makes sense. GWS had the bye this week. So it must be Collingwood having the week off. And Sydney.
Collingwood and Sydney. My app is screaming at me to pick a team before I pick a margin.
It's annoying when it does that. It's a tough game, this first game on the Thursday, Essendon Port Adelaide, because although Essendon, it's hard to know because Adelaide looked really good. Essendon still put up 100 points, but got done by 10 goals. Whereas Port Adelaide, absolute putrid in the first game, and then, I mean, they rightly beat Richmond, so it's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't like these tips this round.
There's a couple of tough ones. I am going to go Essendon for that one. Marvel Stadium.
I'm going Essendon, Carlton, Melbourne, Saints, Lions, Adelaide, and Fremantle. And I've got to figure out the Hawks and the Giants.
That's a tough one, isn't it? It's at the it's UTAS. Okay.
Which, I mean, GWS fancy themselves as the old Globetrotters. They love travelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, Giants.
I think I'm inclined to agree with you there. I actually think the Suns might beat the D's.
Yeah, but I don't like the Suns. I don't like Damien Hardwick.
Okay.
I don't like I don't know, most of their guys on principle.
I don't like most of the Melbourne guys.
That's a very good point too. That's a really good
I
point.
like more of the Suns players than I do the Melbourne players, I'll tell you that.
Now, you're not wrong. What did you go margin for the Essendon game?
3 goals.
I went 10 points, so we'll see.
Yeah, okay.
Which is, 2/3 of 3 goals almost.
Don't forget to join the tipping competition if you haven't already. Get your tips in. All right, well, to finish off the podcast, as we introduced this last week, it is time for the wheel and our debating skills.
Did we have a stark drop-off of listeners when this happened last week?
This is why we save it for the end, and we wait for feedback accordingly. All right, this is how the game works. I've got every player that's played for the Brisbane Lions on a wheel that has played 50 games or more. We spin it twice. You get a player, I get a player, and we have to try and make the case of why our given player is better. Last week I got Ryan Lester, you got Anthony Corrie. It was a bit of a layup for me. So, would you like to go first or second this week with the spin?
I think I'll go first.
Okay. Let's have a spin here. Your player, Nick Robertson.
The Mad Dog himself.
All right. This could be funny here. Now, who knows who I'm going to get? All right, let's go. So, you've got Nick Robertson. Ooh, I've got Tom Cutler.
Oh, birds of a feather, these two. Similar age.
Similar.
I've actually, funnily enough, I could have done both of these, I reckon.
Yeah.
Because, I got to find out, we'll get back to that. But, Nick Robertson, eh? So everyone's going to talk about Joe Dano having the greatest last game for the club, arguably, Nick Robertson, not that far behind.
Yeah, you're not
That
wrong.
elimination final against GWS when Mitch Robbo was not playing and we needed someone to go with whoever it was. Was it Kelly or Whitfield or something?
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
He absolutely blanketed him out of the game. He gave us a level of grit to the team that we really needed at a time when we didn't have it. And his disposal was not as bad as I think I said about 3 weeks ago. It might have been. So my brother used to run the Facebook page, the Mad Dog Appreciation Society, which I think might have started that nickname. So it was a load of drivel. I would be keen to see, retrospectively, what those posts are. But he was definitely a fan favorite in our household. So a lot of time for the old Nick Robertson.
I really like Nick Robertson as well. I mean, obviously, far from the most gifted footy player you've ever seen in your life, but a very likeable character and would give it his all.
A shout out to him kneeing Dustin Martin.
Oh, yeah, that's
when
right.
we got beaten by 95 points or whatever.
All right, well, I've got Tom Cutler. This is going to be a hard one for me because he probably played similar years, I would imagine, sort of that 14 to 18 era before Tom Cutler or Butler. Who was the commentator that called him Butler?
It was BT.
Yeah, before he moved on to Essendon. Great kick of the footy, Tom Cutler. Very smooth.
Only on one foot.
Yeah, very smooth mover. Other than that, not much to say about Tom Cutler, if I'm perfectly honest. He played in a team that didn't do much. Old Tommy Cutler. And then moved to another team that also didn't do very much and didn't play many games for them either. Although I think Tom Cutler was part of the Brisbane AFLX team that did take home a trophy, so he's got more silverware than Nick Robertson.
I do. Yeah. More silverware. So it's got bigger biceps.
Yep.
He's got some large biceps, I'll tell you what. Kicked the goal in that, I think that win over Hawthorn with Matty Eagles. So he's got
That's
that to share
right,
with that. Hodgie's first win.
Geez, not much going on there between those two players.
I think one of the big things that I remember about Tom Cutler was just not having a left foot and kicking it out on the full.
Yeah.
And Fagan losing his absolute mind. It might even have been in that Essendon win down at Docklands
Yeah, okay.
in 2017, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that, but he was probably there anyway. So, two of the not great transitional era.
No. But that's what the game's about. Who knows who will spin up next week?
That's a bit of a dead heat. So, who won that one? Don't know.
We'll throw it open to the people. Check it out on our socials or our website, brisbanelionsfancast.com.au. All right, the Cats next week. We need to play a whole lot better than we have these first couple of weeks if we're any chance of matching up against them.
Without stating the obvious, yes, we do. But that said, the Cats are not as unbeatable as I kind of thought they were. So put it this way, happier we're playing them now than we were in opening round or round one.
Yeah.
So quite okay with it.
Who knows if Bailey Smith will be back for this one? What does help?
I think he probably will. It looked like he was just, a bit of a cusper with being there.
Yep.
Chris Scott does a lot of that sort of stuff anyway. The old late outs, as they were.
Yeah.
They had
everyone.
Ted Closey play.
Yep.
He didn't look too bad.
Yeah, he did a couple of things. I think rarely does someone walk into the Geelong system and look that bad. The only person I really think on their team that I watch and I go, how's this guy getting a game, is O'Sheen Mullen. But then every now and then he'll do something that is quite good as well, but half the time he doesn't look up to AFL standard. But it is going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a pretty decent record against them. Definitely at home. It's more wins than losses, although they had the more recent one. They got threats all up the ground, but I think we've got decent players. Noah can kind of go with it stoppage, hopefully the same way he did in the prelim when they kind of bring one in. And I mean, I think to me, Ollie Dempsey could be a bit of a big influence, particularly if Fletcher's going to continue to play down back, because I think Fletcher did a really good job.
Did a great job on him last year, yeah.
In the prelims, so that could kind of open the door for him because he had a pretty good game. They didn't play badly, St Kilda just jumped him and were kind of being kind of efficient. Tell you what, Mitch Owens looks a pretty good player too.
He does. He certainly does. Was
there anything else that caught your eye in the footballing landscape this weekend?
I didn't really get to watch a huge amount of footy this weekend. It's been a bit of a week. Hawks looked good again. Collingwood looked better. Adelaide have impressed again. That Port Adelaide-Richmond match was a bit of a nothing. It was good to see North get a win. And as thrilling as the Sydney Fremantle game was, it was also mind-numbing at the same time.
Yeah. There's kind of I won't even go into that, but just surprisingly dull.
Yes.
If anyone knows what I mean by that, they'll know what I mean. But Charlie Curnow, has he got to be one of the worst big game players of all time?
He's coming back from an injury.
He's always coming back from an injury.
I mean, yeah.
He's got like a finals record of 0 point something goals per game. And he just doesn't show up,
I think Carlton, they just, I don't know. And Paddy Cripps in the ruck, that whole situation is just a nightmare for those guys. They'll come good, I reckon, Carlton.
Yeah, will they? I tell you what, Kennedy looks like a pretty good player.
Yeah. Getting rid of Kennedy and Owens always were strange. Get rid of.
I mean, Owens didn't really do anything today, and if Owens had kicked a goal, I would have broken the TV. But Kennedy looks good. I tell you what, do you know who else looks like an actual player now? Is Jack McRae. I have been super mega harsh on that dude forever.
Yeah.
But I think his game for St Kilda yesterday was the best game I've ever seen him play. By a mile. Because he was kicking the ball forward, not just handing it to Bontempelli.
Yep.
Which is what he made a career of doing. So, fair play to him. It turns out Liberatore was right, and he did play 249 shit games. And he's now played one good one. So, good on you, Jack McRae, you weird guy.
How has Jack Darling played 300 games, by the way?
Is that what? What does that question mean?
Like, key forwards.
Are you saying that he looks like he hasn't? Or
No, it's just like I don't remember him being in the system for 300 games. Like, I feel like he hasn't been around for that long. Key forwards rarely get to 300 games. It's just strange. He just doesn't seem like a 300 game player.
Did he predate Kennedy?
I don't think so.
He would have had to have, right?
Oh, Josh Kennedy's been gone for a few years now, though.
Yeah, but I mean, at least at the Eagles, not when he had that like year at Carlton.
Oh, yeah.
Can you boffin that one up?
I can certainly try.
But yeah, I think there's some interesting, like some of the players that have swapped teams. They look surprisingly neat. You know, Houston, pretty good.
Oh yeah,
Obviously better last week.
Jack Darling started 5 years after Josh Kennedy.
Really?
Yeah.
How many games did Josh Kennedy play?
293.
Yeah, I guess
That's what I'm saying. It's like he started 5 years after Josh Kennedy, and Josh Kennedy retired at the end of 2022, and he's already played more games.
Josh Kennedy just like ceased to exist for a bit in that career.
He did have a few injury-riddled years, but like he still played like decent chunks most of the time. Even his last year, he played 15 games, 14 in 2018. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a 300 game player. I don't know what a 300 game player like seems like, but it doesn't seem like Jack Darling.
Yeah, but I think to you, every 300 game player is Simon Black.
Well, you got to be pretty bloody good to play 300 games of AFL football. And I don't think Jack Darling is pretty bloody good. Like, he's fine.
So I'll just cast another little drive-by on Harley Reid here. Because we know that I love Hugh McCluggage.
Yeah.
He's my favourite. And Hugh McCluggage kind of carries himself, in my mind, a bit the way that Simon Black did in terms of his professionalism on the field. And to see Harley Reid get done holding the ball from a Hugh McCluggage tackle was extremely satisfying. Because I made mention, like, seeing Simon Black get like a kind of like a dog and tackle or, you know, free kick for doing the hard stuff, which he always did.
Yeah.
But it kind of went unnoticed. It was always really satisfying. And I felt the same way about Hugh.
Oscar got him today as well, Harley.
Yep. It was good. It was good. And Froggy did like 2 tackles in one action. That was also amazing. Loved it. Oh, tackling was good.
Well, it had to be, because it certainly was barely existent in the first half. So we had to really lift, so I'm glad we did. All right, that'll wrap things up. Geelong next week, back at home. 2 games in a row at home, which is bloody good. And probably the best news is it won't be in the beating sun and humidity next week. So that I'm very thankful for.
Are you really going to trust the Bureau of Meteorology on this one?
It can't be that hot. It can't be that hot and humid at 6:30. Like
6:30, right.
Yeah, it was midday and the sun just beating down on everyone today. It was piss.
I definitely, when I was watching it, was like, God, this game looks horrible. Sucks to be Brooksy. I said verbatim.
Yep.
So, sucked in. Are you going to watch the replay, or have you already watched the replay? Or
I might watch some highlights, but I'm not dying to watch the replay, no.
Yeah. Well, you should. Do your job.
Righto.
This is... Unfortunately, we don't do it on a Monday morning where we both have the chance to watch the replay, or, you know, you've had the chance to watch the game. So, it is what it is.
All right. See you next week, folks.